Hey, my name is Patrick O'Halloran. I am a solutions architect with WhereScape. I'm here with Dan Linstead at the 10th Worldwide Data Vault Consortium in Stowe, Vermont. And Dan's been kind enough to sit down with us, and we're going to have a little chat talking about Data Vault, talking about WhereScape, and talking about data warehouse automation. So it's been 10 years.
It has.
Yeah, you had a short story, I believe it was yesterday, about the very, very first Worldwide Data Vault Consortium, the number of people that showed up, the vast preparations you did in catering, the expectations that people had. You want to talk about just how far you've come in 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So after the first year, I learned a few lessons about always have catering prepared ahead of time, for example. So I started that. And then about the second or third year, I decided it would be a good idea to start recording the sessions. Of course, guess who did that? I started my own camera in the back room, so I was emceeing and introducing, and then I would run back to the camera, and then I would tell people, hold up, stop and restart because my camera didn't pick up. It was crazy. So I learned that lesson, then to start hiring professional AV team. And then we grew, and we came here. We've been here for the last 7 years. And every year we try to improve. And a couple years ago, we found these fine folks who are now behind the camera. You can't see them. Wonderful AV team, and they take care of everything. Also, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was still running the conference all by myself. Sanjay was helping quite a bit, and during that time, he would come. Then I found, partnered up with Cindy, and Cindy said, well, I know somebody named Jasmine, and they would love to come and help. And of course, April was part of the show, and so we added to the team, and it's just been such a blessing. So here we are, and I can't do this without the team, and that includes our fine folks behind the camera today.
Yeah, I've been with WhereScape about 4.5 years, and I'd certainly heard about the Worldwide Data Vault Consortium. WhereScape has been a sponsor for quite a while. I'm not sure of exactly how many years. This is my first opportunity to come here, so of course I was quizzing all my coworkers about, what are you looking forward to, what's happened in the past, and I got quite a few stories I can't repeat.
Right.
Yep. But the stories I can repeat, I was actually looking forward to this quite a bit. Believe it or not, I had a 14-day vacation scheduled in Hawaii, which I cut short by 2 days.
Wow!
So I could be here.
I am honored. I am honored.
It's like I just got off the plane.
Well, that's the kind of commitment that we actually get from a lot of attendees.
Mm-hmm.
We are, as you now know, we are different than any other conference. We like to be different than any other conference. We focus on the content, the quality, and solving problems that people may have. And this includes our exhibitors and sponsors. And, here on the vendor floor, they'll come up and ask a tech question. So, or they'll say, hey, I have this issue with my licensing. And, it all ranges across the board. So it isn't always a high-pressure sales pitch. And every presentation, we ask our presenters, bring the good, the bad, the ugly. Tell the story of the journey, not just come in and say, oh, I'm going to pat myself on the back, And so we're different. And what was your experience from that?
So I could probably go to 4 or 5 conferences a year, conferences and seminars, and I would say the big difference with this one is it's really got a communal sense of family, not just the attendees, but even the exhibitors. There are people there that are quote unquote competitors.
Yeah.
We're chatting with each other. We're going out to lunch together. We're maybe having a few adult beverages after the conference. Everyone here seems to be here to learn. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. I've learned a lot. There were some great sessions I attended where I got an entirely new perspective on how to look at things. I think it's good for both people who have a lot of Data Vault experience. You have several Data Vault masters who are here that are attending every year. You've got people who are brand new to it. Data Vault Alliance does do certifications and things.
Yeah.
So it's across the board. I think it's a great, fun communal feel. Which is different than a lot of other conferences I've been to.
Yeah, that's what we try to create. And from the beginning, those of you that don't know me, I've been on the conference circuit years before I started this one, so I know what these conferences are that you mentioned. One of the things that always bothered me was, vendors who are on the floor, those people that are on the floor are never allowed in the sessions. And I always wondered, why the heck is that? That's, they're people too, and they got to learn what other people are asking for, and what better way than to just invite them. So this is why we say, we're one track, which is really special. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets to go into the same room, hear the same thing, come out of there and start talking about it. So we invite our vendors and exhibitors to come in and sit down and listen. And some of the things hit and some of them don't, and that's okay. But, it's exactly that. We're all one community here, and we're all trying to help each other. So why not just be together?
Yeah, I've been to some conferences where you're in your little booth and you're like jumping up and down, spinning a sign and waving flags and trying to get people to stop to talk to you for just a couple minutes. Here this week, I've had the same person stop by having technical conversations, best practices questions and things like that 3, 4, or 5 times.
Yeah.
And that's completely different from any other conference I've been to.
Yeah, we like to call that relationship building, right?
Definitely.
And it's longevity, right? You build more trust, I'm sure, as an exhibitor or a vendor. You build more trust with them. They leave here happier, and knowing that they can get their questions answered. And furthermore, you build friends and friendships, right? So if this person who approached you 3, 4 times, they've got your phone number now. They call you up. Hey, remember me from the WWD? Oh, yeah, we were there. Yeah, let's chat, right? So I really like that. I appreciate the comments, though. That's what we've always tried to build here. And I don't know that you can hear it, but in the background, we actually have a Data Vault band for the first time ever.
I'm missing that.
Yeah.
I was invited to play.
Yeah.
I think I was invited to play.
Yeah, and they played a song about me. First song ever written about me. I hope it's the last. I'm just kidding, but it's a really funny song. But that's the kind of stuff you get. These people who say, "Well, I play an instrument, so let's just start a jam session." Okay, great. It's just cool.
Yeah. I'm working for WhereScape. Obviously, I am interested in data warehouse automation.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say several times. I did an hour and a half long hands-on lab.
Oh.
And that's probably the one little bit of sales pitch I did. I think I did about a 5-minute sales pitch. But the rest of the time I've been spending here is honest conversations about what works, what doesn't work, the benefits of our again, competitors.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that exchange of information. But again, still representing WhereScape.
Yeah.
Automation. I asked them during my hands-on lab how many people here have tried to build a data vault manually.
Yeah.
And about 4 hands came up, and I asked one of the people there, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your success? And he said it was an absolute total failure.
Right.
And I've heard you say this many, many times. I'll let you explain to the audience. Why is automation, data warehouse automation, so important in designing, developing, building, and operating a data vault?
Well, if I had to boil it down, I would say one word: governance. And what that truly means is standards adherence. So, and if you pull that apart, you get into the technical level of template-driven generation. So at the very end of it, you have all this metadata floating around. And what's the best way to close gaps between perception or belief of what things should be, which is represented clearly most of the time in metadata layers, and the way things should operate, which is the technical implementation, the rules and the execution and the programming and the paradigms? Well, you take a template, and we have repeatable standards, we have repeatable patterns, we have all this stuff, and if you can get these notions encapsulated in templates and connect the metadata to the template and generate, then you can focus on what the template, and there's different kinds of templates that do different things, but you can focus on the template doing the same thing over and over again with great success. So it improves the time, and it improves the quality of the output, and it highly focuses what the customer's doing, so that anyone with a knowledge of how to press that button can generate consistency across the enterprise, no matter what team they're in or what part of the world they're in. And so this is one of the reasons that automation really hits home with me, is it makes the governance aspect of the code layers so much easier. I fought for years and struggled for years with multiple teams at Lockheed trying to do what we had done. And I taught them how to do it. But they went off, and like everyone else, humans are lazy. Humans don't necessarily want to follow standards. They think they know better, so they start cutting corners, and the things fall down. And they'd come to me and go, well, why is this broken? And I'd say, well, you did this wrong here, here, and here. So having that template base in place is one of the key items to automation, but then you've got to have good governance over the templates too. So version control and everything else. So that doesn't get away from you, and you don't have 1,000 people creating 1,000 different templates, right? That's part of the issue too. But tooling on top of that to control the versions and to adhere to good governance and common repositories, all good stuff.
Something I found in one of my many roles at WhereScape is that a lot of times I've had to explain exactly what data warehouse automation is.
Oh, yes.
Because it's one of those terms that people hear, they think they know. I started a blog post in July. I finished it in December. And it talks about different levels of automation. The reason I started it was I read an article saying Mercedes-Benz had achieved level 3 of driving automation.
Oh.
And I went, what? I don't understand that. What is that? Turns out the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration has defined 6 levels of automation. And it involves the active participation of the driver. So I kind of translated that into data warehouse automation. What are the 6 levels of data warehouse automation? And you've talked about automation in the terms of templates and code generation and things like that. And I'm sure that's what most people think of.
Right.
Are there other areas in design or deployment or areas where automation can kick in and really help you accelerate and not just build a product faster, but build a better product?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, we have standards across the board for the way metadata is put together, for the way definitions are put together, for the way business is interpreted in a technical layer, and how to cross the chasm from business and business processes down to matching it to the technical keys. And so there's modeling and there's methodology and there's architecture and all of those other wonderful things that have to be or should be considered, again, within governance and productivity. So when you talk about automation, the tooling should reach those levels as well. And any tool that simply goes, I've got a template and I can take format A and translate it or generate format B. Well, we have those. We've had those for years. You could do this in Perl. I did this in Perl in 1994, but
Global search and replace was my
exactly.
level of automation for a while.
Yeah, and for those Unix heads out there, there's a command line called TR, right, which is translate, for lack of a better word. But TR did a search and replace, and then you had regular expressions, but you could do kinds of things. And today you might know or have heard of something called Mustache, which is a template-based engine. And you could plug it into any language you want, including JavaScript. But it's more than that. You need a governed UI. You need a governed workflow process that includes the metadata and the whole nines around this. Because data warehousing, business analytics, and implementing a solution, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that get into the analytics space or the data warehousing space, they come out with this impression from their first class that it's so easy to do. And it's just simple that anyone can do it. Well, if anyone could do it, we wouldn't be here with a conference year after year after year trying to solve problems. Our results speak for themselves. Of course, we had the guy from MIT, and we had a chief executive, a chief enterprise architect, from National Instruments. I mean, just on and on and on. So clearly there's a need. Automation is I won't say required, but it's definitely recommended. I mean, it's high on the list. Yeah, you can write data warehouse and BI by hand. People have been doing that for years. But the amount of errors that get checked into production, the amount of rework that the customer has to pay for is unbelievably high. And that's something that we try to reduce. So having accelerator processes in the form of wizards in the UI to address the methodology side, or a form of wizards to address an architectural problem, that goes beyond the actual generation of the code.
Yeah, I think people think of automation and they just think of code generation, and that's a small part of a project.
Exactly.
As being a long-term digit head, bit head, and programmer, I probably spent 25% of my time writing code and 75% of my time either debugging my code or even worse, debugging someone else's code.
Yeah.
I did a stacked bar chart to show off where you actually save a lot of time using data warehouse automation, using WhereScape, and coding was a small piece of it.
Yeah.
The big piece was testing.
Yeah.
And rework.
Absolutely.
And documentation.
Absolutely.
That's one of the definite benefits of WhereScape is full documentation.
Yeah.
Because I always refer to documentation as the phase of a project where someone runs around and grabs all the Post-it notes and quickly types them into Word and they hit File Save. Yeah. And as soon as they hit File Save, it's obsolete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So keeping it all in sync and with the generation to deployment is hugely important.
Yeah. You've talked about some of, I've heard you speak many, many times, a couple key factors in making a successful data vault project, one of which was not doing source modeling. Starting with a conceptual model first, outside, and really making that a business project rather than an IT project.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of companies are still approaching data warehouses and data vaults as an IT project because you need data engineers, you need coders, you need architects. They're using tech tools, therefore it must be a tech project.
Right.
We at WhereScape, we can certainly help with the conceptual model, going down to the logical model, down to the physical model. What other benefits have you seen, or how can data automation help at the design level when people are not doing the IT part of the project, but maybe they're talking to several different business groups to figure out what is a customer, what is a product, what is a student?
I think a particular GUI feature which isn't found today in most design tools. You get smatterings of this, and I'm being vague. Let me try to bring this together. There is a tool I've been using for years called a mind mapping tool. And if you remember, there was a phase where it was all the rage to use a mind mapping tool to generate ideas, right? So you'd have this ideation phase where you go in and you start talking to the customer, you draw stuff. Whiteboard is another way to do this, but the mind mapping tool gives you a digital concept or construct of a whiteboard. Some people use Miro boards these days. That's another way. But these tools like this are not connected to the data engineering world. That's one of the problems that we have. Conceptual modeling, right? Conceptual modeling is awesome, but how do you capture the conceptual model while you're talking to the business user in a graphical way that they will go, no, that's not right, and you can literally drag it and drop it in a different place and have that flow down, have it all connected to the technical. What I'm talking about is closing the gaps between the conception or the inception of the conceptual model down to the logical draw out down to the physical. So if you can close those gaps are human driven. And so when you talk about the gaps being human driven, what you're talking about is, well, we draw the conceptual model in Miro. Now we have to print it out of Miro. Now somebody has to translate that into something that means metadata that we can put into a logical modeling tool and then take it out of the logical modeling tool and then put it into the physical modeling tool. And today that gap's been closed for quite a few years, especially in data modeling tools around the world. But conceptual models, and if you get back to the crux of the matter, it really should all be business process modeling. So conceptually, we've struggled as an industry with this thing called business process modeling over the years. We've had something called business process engineering language, or BPEL, for example. That's been around a long time. But who's using it in BI and analytics? They use it in operational systems design, but why aren't we using it to understand what the operational systems are using today? And there's a whole structure around that. There's standards around that. But understanding business processes. Now, I'm not suggesting, and I'll bring this to a close, at least this particular question, because I know there's more, but I'm not suggesting that the BI and analytics team go out and business process model the entire enterprise. That's not what I'm saying. You don't want a big bang, and you certainly don't need to do that. What I am suggesting is you need to do it within scope. So whatever the scope is of your current sprint, your current project, your current iteration, that's what you need to focus on. Eventually, those pieces need to fit together. And so you need another tool that can encapsulate that, or where you come in and say, okay, I've got this conceptual idea. I'm going to plug it in like a module. I did this one in this sprint. Let's do the next one in the next sprint and plug it in. So you need incremental build, and that's something that Data Vault brings to the table. All the Data Vault methodology and the architecture and the whole nines brings that ability down to the implementation side of the house.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the past. We've talked a little bit about the present. So let me ask you a question about the future.
You bet.
Like I slipped that in that nice.
Hey, I like it.
Temporal sequence. At WhereScape, we spent a lot of R&D money in the last couple of years on turning WhereScape into more of an engine than a tool. We've externalized a lot of the functionality. We have what we call enablement packs, which allow us to write to different targets. We support 17 or 18 different targets, different modeling styles and things like that. So we're able to adapt quite quickly to what's changing in the future. So what's coming up with Data Vault? What's changing in the future with data vault methodology?
Right. Well, one of the bigger things that's coming as far as a tool, and I'm going to present this tomorrow, is more of a focus on the methodology of the business analyst. What the business analyst is doing and the handoff sequences between the BA and the IT team or the sprint team. There are long, elongated processes going from a user story and or an epic, which is a collection of user stories, to the actual technical requirements that they have to implement. There's huge gaps in that process. And when you think about Data Vault, and we've always said, including to those who don't believe it, that we start with the business, always is, was, and is about the business, and will forever be about the business. So one of the things that closes a lot of gaps is this thing called a taxonomy and an ontology, which, for those of you that really want to know, a poor man's definition is a hierarchy. So if you've ever done a word outline, that's a hierarchy. Potentially that's a taxonomy. To make that an ontology requires additional relationship definitions. So we start there, and we work on extending it with closing the gaps by adding technical elements. Not all of them, but things like the business keys, which are from the business side of the house, not the tech side of the house, but then when you get down to it, you've got a concept. So here's where your conceptual model comes in. The business key is focused on identifying a unique record inside of a, for lack of a better word, inside of a concept model. But then you've got multiple systems providing those concepts. So how do you integrate on that key? Well, those systems and those technical attributes are extended inside the ontology. That's just one area where that's coming. The other area where development is going to happen, and you alluded to this earlier, AI. Everybody's using AI.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I'm going to skip to it. AI and Gen AI and LLMs and everything else, that stretches the boundaries quite a bit further. Now, what I'm going to challenge all vendors to do, including you guys, is not so much to think about AI replacing functionality, but instead, and I'm sure you do this already, enabling something to happen better, faster, cheaper. So anybody who knows anything about AI, specifically LLMs, Gen AI operates a bit differently, so I'm not going to get into that right now, but in an LLM, it's pre-trained in most cases, unless you build your own LLM, which you could do, but then you got to train it. So once you've trained it, you can have conversations with it. The conversations are guided, which creates a funnel of knowledge, hopefully gets you to a particular point at which you want the outcome to be. It isn't just ask a question, get your outcome. Now, for some questions that can be that way. It can be a one-step process, but it's a multi-step process. So the question now is, when we talk about something like WhereScape, where inside of WhereScape could you use something like an AI LLM to improve the existing process? And the improvement could be in governance, it could be in grading or classification, it could be in generating test cases, it could be in spotting missing test cases, it could be in data quality, generating more profiling and then taking those results back into AI and asking, did we have good coverage? Did we miss something? Right? So there's lots of different aspects at where, or workflow points at where AI can and should be injected into the process of using the tool to be more effective.
Yeah, I think when people ask about, you did jump ahead to my next question, but when people ask me about AI, they say, what's the future of programming? Are we still going to need coders? Are we still going to need engineers and things like that? And the answer is yes. But the way I can see AI fitting into our tool, the design tool we have is rules-based.
Yep.
Very rules-based, based on source systems, based on relationships, primary keys, foreign keys, based on attributes assigned. We can generate a raw vault, a business vault, a presentation layer on top of that. I can see AI, not just in terms of writing code, which is what people tend to think of, but helping define and refine those rules so that you can come up with a much better outcome at the end. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your time. It's good to be able to talk with you.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure what kind of sign-off we need, if any.
Well, we look forward to next year. We hope all of you watching can actually make it to the conference because it's a cool place to be. We're going bowling tonight, by the way, so you're missing out.
So I'm going to leave here. I'm going to grab a snack and then go listen to the band.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.